program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public here on the island of Nevis, those on St. Kitts, St. Christopher, those who are throughout the Caribbean Sea. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom. Wherever you are, good evening to you. It is a beautiful night here in Nevis, Queen City, and we are here once again on a Wednesday between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. to bring you 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio. My name is Mark Brantley, the host this evening of On the Mark. Straight talk across the Narrows, and we hope to have an excellent conversation this evening. I am masked, and that means that I have a guest, but I'll introduce my guest a bit later, and he hopefully will do much of the talking as we go along this evening for the next 2 hours. We are very happy to be here and to be alive and to be well, and Nevis is, despite its challenges, we feel doing relatively well, and we are grateful to God for that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start the show by bringing birthday greetings to the one and only Moses Webb. Moses, who is there in the United Kingdom. Your birthday greetings are coming from all of us, but more specifically from your sister, Mem Wallace. She said to use those precise words that your sister, Mem Wallace, is saying, happy birthday. Bernadette Wallace, let me be more precise. He's saying happy birthday. So Moses, if you're listening, brother, I know it's late there. In fact, based on my view here, I believe it's after midnight, so your birthday might already be finished in England, but it's not finished here. You have another 4 hours here of birthday time in Nevis, and since you're from Nevis, I believe you should celebrate in both time zones. So we're wishing Moses a very happy birthday. Jackie, make sure you treat Moses extra special, and not just today, but always. But you know, I believe that today, tomorrow, and the next few days is all about Moses. So the man called Moses, I was actually embarrassed today because I said to Mems, but I can't call him by his nickname, Moses. I have to get his real name, and she said the real name is Moses. So Moses Webb, happy birthday to you. Let me move from that celebration, and certainly we would wish all else who are celebrating happy anniversary, happy birthday, whatever your celebration may be. But let me move quickly to a note of sadness. We have, of course, had the sad news that we've had the passing of Tom Wilkes. Tom Wilkes was known to all of us. I knew him best as a school teacher because when my family moved to Brown Hill when I was a little boy, Tom's was a teacher at the then Prospect Primary School, now the Ivor Walters Primary. I believe he was known by all as one of the best dressed gentlemen in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I am truly sorry to learn, and was truly sorry to learn, that he had transitioned to the great beyond. And so I would want to extend my deepest condolences to his family, to all of those that he leaves to mourn, and to say how sad we are here at On the Mark at the loss of a real gem of a human being, Tom Wilkes, who has gone on to be with the ancestors. And so we extend deepest sympathies, and we say to the family that we're prayerful, and we hope that the prayers of the multitude will comfort them in this their hour of bereavement. Let me also extend condolences to the Lawrence family. We have lost Mr. Lawrence, who we know lived in Hamilton, I believe. Franklin Lawrence. And we would want to extend condolences to his wife and children on their loss, on his passing. I'm told that his funeral arrangements are this Saturday at the church here, the Bath Village. Is it New Testament? Church in Bath Village. And certainly we would ask people to go out and pay their last respects to a man who really, I think, contributed much. And so we want to extend condolences to his entire family, Mr. Franklin Lawrence, who has also passed on. We also extend our deepest condolences on the tragic and surprising news that Mr. Davis Pharaoh, known to all as Pharaoh, that Chester Davis has also passed on. Apparently he had some kind of accident yesterday, and we were greeted with the sad news that he had passed. Pharaoh, somebody was known to everybody. I would call him by that name because everybody knew him as Pharaoh. He contributed a tremendous amount to culture and the preservation of our culture here, and I would want to extend my deepest condolences to those who survive him, his family, and all of his friends, and to say to the families of Mr. Davis, the family of course, Mr. Lawrence, and the family of Thomas Wilkes, that we are remembering them in our prayers, and that we are hopeful that our prayers will comfort them in their hour of bereavement. This is really the season of discontent for so many, season of sadness for so many, and we are truly extending our hearts and our prayers to you in this very difficult time. If there are other people out there who might be ill, we know that there are some people who are hospitalized even now with COVID and having a difficult time. We would want to extend our prayers to them for speedy recovery. We also would want to extend our thoughts to all of those out there who might be suffering in some way, whether in infirmity of body or mind, and to say to them that we are prayerful that they will make a speedy recovery. So at the top of the show, we normally try to deal with what I would call those types of community matters. I much prefer the celebrations and the birthdays, but naturally, as we have always said, once there's life, there's death. Death is a part of life, and from the moment we're born, we start to die. That is the reality, and so it is something which has often been described as the inevitable end, which will come when it will come. And so it is unfortunate that it comes, and it comes for all of us. But when it comes, even though we know it will come, we are still deeply saddened. The thought of never seeing these loved ones again, certainly not in this life, is very, very, very sobering and very saddening. And it makes us all, I believe, recognize our own mortality, and says to all of us that we are ultimately human, and but humans. And as humans, we are but chaff that the wind blows away. We are here for a very short time. And so we ought to, and it really behooves us to do all that we can in the time that we have to make an impact and to serve, and then to move off the stage so that others can come and do likewise. So we extend congratulations and felicitations to those who are celebrating, condolences certainly to those who are now suffering and who are bereaved. We certainly extend our hearts to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening I have a very special guest in the person of the Honorable Spencer Brand. The Honorable Spencer Brand has just shocked me by telling me that in all the years, this is his first appearance on the mark. That is unacceptable. But I take full responsibility for that, and I assure him that this will not be his last. But last week we had on the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and this week we have the Honorable Spencer Brand. And I feel like I'm Larry King or somebody like that, because it is for me now to interview them and ask them some questions to give them an opportunity to speak to you. This is a large platform. It is a widely listened to platform, and certainly these good gentlemen have decided that they will come and they will have a chance here to speak to you, the members of the public, both here in St. Kitts and Nevis and of course in the wider diaspora. So Spencer, welcome to On the Mark. Welcome to your maiden voyage on the show. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. I know you're no stranger to One Radio because you're a fixture now on the heavyweights. And this show is really not as heavy as the heavyweight show, but we're certainly here, and we're grateful for the opportunity to be here. So welcome to On the Mark, and it is absolutely wonderful to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Premier, and I certainly want to thank you for the invitation. It is certainly a pleasure for me to be here tonight. I want to, from the outset, join with you and offer condolences to the various families who are in mourning tonight. You would have mentioned Chesley Davis, better known to us as Pharaoh, Thomas Wilkes, of course. Those who don't know Thomas Wilkes are those persons who haven't been born yet. Mr. Franklin Lawrence, a very good friend of mine there in the Hamilton area. I want to add to those names Mr. Elbert Bergen, Sr., there in the Ramsbury area, who would have passed a few days ago. And also Mr. Jerome Pinney, who would have worked at the water department here in Nevis for many years, assisting the people of Nevis with our water exploration and water development. And I believe that his DNA flows through the pipes of the people of Nevis every single day, Mr. Jerome Pinney. I certainly want to use this opportunity on behalf of the government and people of Nevis, to the Pinney family especially, to say how saddened we are on his passing, but also to say that his legacy will certainly continue to live on here on the island of Nevis for many, many, many years to come. And we certainly want to thank him for his service. We also certainly want to thank all of the other folks who are in mourning tonight for the loss of their loved one, Mr. Bergen, who would have contributed significantly to the development of Nevis. Mr. Franklin Lawrence and Toms would have been an educator. And Pharaoh, who would have been one of our cultural icons. I believe that when the pages of our history is written as it regards to culture, certainly a chapter would be there for him. I certainly also want to join and offer birthday greetings or celebratory words to those who are celebrating tonight, and I certainly hope that they are having a wonderful evening tonight. Prim, thanks for the invitation, and I'm certainly looking forward to our discussion tonight.
Well, Spencer, my brother, it is good to have you. And of course, I recall that it was back in 2017, December to be precise, that you and I were on the campaign trail. And we were traversing the highways and byways of the great parish of St. Paul's, Ramsbury, Charlestown, Hamilton, you name it, we were all over the great parish of St. Paul's. And I recall you said to the people of St. Paul's that you wanted them to give you a chance, and that if they gave you 5 years, you will earn the rest. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
That stuck with me, because I said this was a bold, bold statement, that if they took a chance on you,
Yes.
that you would earn the rest. I believe that the people of St. Paul's naturally are saying, okay, you have now been there for 4 years, 2 years of which have been incredibly difficult because of this pandemic that the island has suffered. You're in the cabinet, so you understand that with limited resources, dwindling revenues, that it has been an incredibly difficult period. And you are the man who's charged with our public infrastructure. And so public infrastructure, as we know, takes money, because it's one of the more expensive undertakings to build out infrastructure in any country, and it's no different here. Can you give us a sense of how you have managed over the last 4 years as a minister, as a representative of the great people of St. Paul's? Your win in 2017 was a nail biter. I think it was by 11 or 12 votes or something like that. 11 votes. But we understood the shift that was required to generate that win, and really in 2017 you unseated someone who had been the incumbent in that seat, if memory serves. So it really was a triumph for you personally, but for the party, CCM. And I'm just curious, now that you've had that opportunity to be there as a newcomer 4 years ago, you're no longer a newcomer, you're now a veteran, but since you had that opportunity, what your reflections would be, and how it is you feel that you've managed, both as a minister with certain Herculean responsibilities for our infrastructure, but also, of course, as the representative of the proud people of St. Paul's.
Well, thanks, Prim. You are absolutely correct. When we campaigned in 2017 and, of course, also in 2016, I would have said to the good people of St. Paul's, give me an opportunity, and I certainly would do my very best to make them proud. Winning the election in 2017, I don't think any of us foresee the difficulties that we would have had with COVID. And while we may have had our very ambitious agenda, we certainly had to pivot over the last 2 years from many of our infrastructure development projects. I can start with water. In 2017, when I took the reins as the area representative, and certainly you have charged me with the responsibility of water, I met a situation in Charlestown where we were at the moment moving water, most of it all the way from Gingerland. And we had a situation in Hamilton where I met a well, a high yielding well. The science shows something about 230 imperial gallons of water that it could produce.
230,000.
230 imperial gallons per minute.
Oh, per minute.
Per minute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
200
I shouldn't interrupt the expert. Forgive me.
230 imperial gallons per minute. And I was told that because it had in some contaminants that was not up to World Health Organization standard, that it was left abandoned. And I said, well, this really can't make much sense. We have the necessary science and technology there to deal with it. So what we did, we would have brought that well online, and we would have fitted onto that well a water filtration system that would have removed the contaminants from that water and make the water potable for human consumption. Now, we would have received some grant funding from the CARICOM Development Fund to the tune of $252,000, $252,100 to purchase and install that water filtration system. We would have gone a bit further, and we would have installed a 400,000 gallon water tank in Hamilton. And that was in a sense to replace an old fiberglass storage tank that was there, was not being utilized, and we felt that that needed to go, and we would have purchased a 400,000 gallon water storage tank to the tune of $448,471 to add storage for the people of St. Paul's. We also would have gone a bit further, and there was as well on the site a stone tank that was left abandoned. The roof was caved in into the tank, and I thought that we needed to replace the roof and added additional storage to that facility. We would have extended some $66,000 for the steel frame structure, and that replacement of that roof is just about completed. Our goal now is to have the tank sanitized and have it filled and additional storage for the people of St. Paul's. So just in water alone in the Hamilton area, we would have seen the installation of a 400,000 gallon water tank. We would have seen the installation of a water filtration system, and we would have also seen the replacement of a roof on the old 1904 stone tank there in the Hamilton area. By essence, bringing back online the water facility there at the Hamilton. Now, what is the significance of all of this? The significance of all of this means that we are now adding in over 300,000+ gallons of water storage in the Hamilton area that was not there before. It means that we can either eliminate or reduce the amount of water needed from the Gingerland area that would feed Charlestown and all the way down into Four Seasons. For me, that is a significant accomplishment, because whenever there was difficulty in the water system, at times we would have to ration water here in the Charlestown area. So I believe that that was indeed a remarkable accomplishment as it relates to water. I will stick with water, and we have seen in different areas of St. Paul's, we have replaced some water lines in the Ramsbury area. In the Ramsbury we had some chick-water inch water lines, and we would have replaced those with much larger pipes in those areas. We have seen the construction of numerous pieces of roads in the St. Paul's area, Lower Stony Grove, Upper Stony Grove, Hamilton. And I believe that those pieces of roads would have brought some much needed improvement to those various villages. Coddock Road, for example, we would have reconstructed the entire length of Coddock Road from the top of the bypass road all the way down to the Island Main Road at the base. But we did not only reconstruct the road, we would have replaced some old cast iron pipes that was always giving some problems. From time to time they would break, and from time to time we would get these kind of dark colored water. So we would have replaced those old cast iron pipe and resurfaced the road. We would have also done some road reconstruction there from the Big Rock area, and we would have removed a piece of the Big Rock which seemed to have caused a lot of uproar. But the idea was to improve the safety in that junction there at the Big Rock area. And as I said, we would have reconstructed the road from the Big Rock all the way down to TDC. When we come into Charlestown, we all would remember how the roads were in Charlestown. We have seen the milling and resurfacing of Chapel Street, Happy Hill Alley, Prince William Street, both upper and lower Prince William Street, Market Street. We have seen the milling and resurfacing of Government Road, and the Government Road is from the Island Main Road in Charlestown all the way up to Revere House. We have seen completed work on the sidewalk there in the Jews Street across to the Methodist Church. And we not only resurfaced the road, we also did some solution to some drainage in that area, because there was a swale at the top of Happy Hill Alley, and once we have heavy rains, it could have been dangerous for vehicles and pedestrian crossing. So we would have removed the swale and constructed a culvert so that vehicles can now actually pass over the drain rather than going through the drain. I also met a situation in the Ramsbury area going across to the Charlestown Primary School, where when there were heavy rains, oftentimes there would be stagnant water and water flowing on the side of the road, and it was somewhat kind of dangerous for the children from the Hamilton area, the Stony Grove area, and the Government Road area having to walk through that area with that stagnant water. We would have constructed some drainage in that area, thus eliminating that stagnant water and solving some drainage problems there for some household there in the Ramsbury area. We would have done the same thing in Craddock Road by constructing some U-drain that brought relief to a number of residents in Craddock Road and in Ramsbury. Let's look at the Charlestown Primary School. Again, the staff room, or the office of the principal and the administrative staff, that space have become outgrown, and when I became the minister and the area representative, we would have gone in and removed the roof of that building and added on a second floor. That in itself would have given the principal and the administrative staff much needed additional space, not only to accommodate parents and having some rooms where they can have meetings privately with teachers and parents and students. So that in my mind would have been a good addition to the Charlestown Primary School. Now, there has been a lot of talk about nothing is happening, but today I tried to add up a number of jobs that are being created, whether it is temporary or permanent jobs. And I was having some difficulty with the figures actually, because I think I stopped counting at about 45, 48 persons who are either temporarily employed or permanently employed, just from the St. Paul's area due to my representation. I met a situation with some lands at the top of Government Road, and it was no secret that that would have caused the landowners much pain and suffering, for them to have woken up one morning and find that their land was acquired or being acquired. The process was not completed, and I would have ensured that that process was completed, in that the government is now and has now acquired that portion of land at the top of Government Road. We would have also purchased some additional lands directly opposite Boko Park, going up in the Hamilton area. And these two pieces of lands, it is the intention to have the community being able to have use of it. So I met a situation once again where there was a high demand for housing in the St. Paul's area. Now, while there was a high demand for housing in the St. Paul's area, the government did not own any land in Charlestown. Not 1 square foot of land in Charlestown. So I would have gone on a hunt and we would have been able to identify 2 pieces of land, the piece at the top of Craddock Road, and then there's another piece in the Hamilton area. The Hamilton site is offering to the people of Nevis, or to 14 families, the opportunities to own their own home. In the Craddock Road area, we are seeing that there will be 22 families that would have the opportunity to own their own homes. So these are just a few areas that I would have been instrumental in ensuring that we see some development in the Charlestown area.
All right. Now, Spencer, I've allowed you to talk for a little bit because I myself confess that as the Premier of Nevis, I have been blown away in terms of the level and extent of work that has happened in and around St. Paul's, and certainly in the wider Nevis. We haven't even got to the wider Nevis yet,
no,
as I realize that you were focusing attention on St. Paul's. But so far, listening to you, as a representative for St. Paul's, you have done roads, which falls under your remit in St. Paul's. You have increased the water supply with the water filtration system. You have increased water storage capacity with a new tank, and also by fixing the old tank that was there. You have stepped outside your ministerial responsibilities and provided support, not trespass, offered support to education and brought some relief to the teachers and staff of the Charlestown Primary School. I think a beautiful building was put there to accommodate them.
Yes.
And you have stepped further out of your ministerial responsibilities, but consistent with your obligations to your constituency, you have, as you rightly put it, searched out. And I think that it's important for me to say to the general public that the government did not have any land in St. Paul's, as you pointed out. And I well remember when you came first to me as Premier to tell me that you had located some lands and wanted the blessings and to know if the government could find the resources to buy. And then to the cabinet thereafter. I remember those interactions very well. And you were able to persuade me as Premier and the cabinet that this was the right thing to do. And I believe that the result of that is that some 36 families
That's right.
will now have a home in the St. Paul's area. So I go back to where I started, because I recall, as I said, that when we campaigned, you said, give you a chance and you will earn the rest. And so you have not only been trying to deliver and have delivered in terms of water, falls into your ministerial remit. You haven't only delivered and continue to deliver in terms of roads and culverts and sidewalks and the like in terms of beautifying Charlestown. You haven't only delivered and continue to deliver in those areas for which you're responsible, but you've also ensured and pushed for other areas such as housing to come to the constituency. And I think that that's important. I do not know at the end of the day how many residents of St. Paul's will take advantage of the opportunity to own a home in St. Paul's, but certainly the homes have been made available now. In Craddock Road, some 22 homes, and in Hamilton, some 14 homes. I should also say that we continue to look for land. If we can find land at rates that we can develop, and thereafter make available to our people at affordable rates. And so I think that that's important, Spencer, that you have really demonstrated in a tangible way. And I say to people all the time, because I think that this is important, and some would wish us to not talk about it and to pretend that it doesn't exist, but all that you are describing happened during COVID.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, of the 4 years that you have been there, 2 of those years, we had lockdowns, we had quarantine, we had curfew, we had not the level of work and productivity that we would ordinarily have. And certainly the government did not have the resources that it would normally have.
That's right.
Because our main engine, which was tourism, was offline. So we have to view it as even more remarkable given the circumstances that we had at the time. And I believe in terms of the ministry, and perhaps I should allow you to tell us a bit about it, because part of what you also champion, and I know you've championed in the cabinet, as you now serve all of Nevis, is that you should have better equipment available to you in the ministry to do the work. And I know you have come with some equipment sometimes. I confess I can't remember all the names, but you and your team have come and you have asked for the cabinet support for that equipment. Could you tell the public a word on that, so we get a sense of what investments we have made over this period since you have been the minister, in terms of having the necessary equipment to deliver high quality infrastructure to the people of Nevis?
Well, Prim, thank you very much. Over the last 2 years, we have invested heavily in two main pieces of equipment. One was a milling machine, and that particular milling machine would have allowed us to mill Happy Hill Alley, Government Road, Jew Street in one Sunday and have it asphalted in a matter of hours. And I think that piece of machine was extremely critical for us to have been able to undertake those volume of work in a very short period of time that we did. Now, we also would have invested in a paver, a new paver. I am told that the paver that we have been working with, when I took over public works, that paver was near 30 years old. Now, I've watched the team work that paver. They have had to tie up oil tubes. They have had to put all kind of bottle and prevent the oil from getting into the asphalt. And I said that this can't be what we want these guys to be doing. They should be focusing on increasing their productivity. So I would have, as you indicated, approached the cabinet, and the cabinet would make my case, and the cabinet would have supported these two pieces of equipment. Now, we have seen that because of the COVID, you know, the volume of work that we have been able to do have been reduced somewhat because of some of the lockdowns and things like that. But I think that once we are back up to full working hours, I think once we are able to operate normally, I think throughout this year we would see a significant improvement in the volume and the quantum of work that will be done by the Public Works Department, because they have had the necessary virtual training, they have had the necessary tabletop training, they have had the necessary on-site training. The supplier of these equipment were actually on the island assisting the staff there at Public Works, giving them the necessary on-site training, and I believe that they have grasped those two pieces of equipment. And I believe that in time that we will see even greater productivity. Now, the other benefit of these two pieces of equipment, especially the milling machine, it will allow the government to reduce the volume of material that they would have to import from overseas. By that I mean that the material will be milled, the surface of the road will be milled, and that milled material will be sent to the asphalt plant, remix and reuse on our roads in different areas. And the paver would definitely cut down on the time that the team would need to have road resurfaced. Now, while we are on roads, we have seen significant road work being done throughout the length and breadth of Nevis since I became the minister with responsibility for road. As I said before, we would have completed the Quaddock Road rehabilitation project. We would have completed the main carriageway of the Brown Hill Road rehabilitation project. We have done some road work in Clegot. We have done some additional road work in the Brown Hill area, in the Brown Hill communication area. We have done road work in Box Hill. We have done road work in the Baptist Church in the Maddens area, up to the agricultural field station. We have done road work in Mount Lily and in Hanley's Road. All of these were done by our very own Public Works Department. here on the island of Nevis. If I would move also, Prim, to a number of buildings that we have assisted with. Now, when the COVID pandemic hit the island of Nevis, we would have pivoted to agriculture and education and healthcare and social services. Now, we too at the Public Works would have had to pivot it. And we would have worked with the Agriculture Department to construct a storage facility there at the Prospect Station, where a number of freezers are now being housed. And the idea was to increase the storage capacity for the island of Nevis. By extension, we can have more food being stored for a much longer period. And I want to thank the Public Works guy who put up that building in very quick time, thus ensuring that we can have that greater storage capacity for our friends there in the Agriculture Department. I would have also met a situation there at the body repair shop, and a kind of vexed situation personally, because I saw a situation there where you have folks were doing welding under a tree, and when rain fell, and I thought that the working environment was less than acceptable. So we would have gone ahead and constructed a building there at the repair shop for the guys there who would be doing welding and body repairs and so on. And I believe that even that was done during the COVID and during the lockdown period. That building is virtually completed, and those are two critical buildings which I feel would not only help in the government repair shop, but also as it relates to the agriculture food storage department.
Again, Minister Brand, it reads like an encyclopedia of what has been done. I myself am getting a little nervous and say, if you have done so much in 4 years, 2 of which we practically lost to a pandemic, what can we look forward to in another 5-year term as you offer yourself again to the people of St. Paul's? You did say that it would be a brand new style of representation, and I am really proud of the way that you've gone about it. No fanfare, no big set of fuss and noise, but just making it happen. And I think the transformation that we have seen, and I like the way that you started out by talking about St. Paul's at the constituency level, because ultimately it's the people of St. Paul's that are giving you the opportunity to serve them, but expanding outwards. And when I think about St. Paul's, and you said that you've touched Stony Grove, you've touched the roads in town, Happy Hill Avenue, you've gone and touched all the Craddock Road, you've touched Ramsbury, you're doing housing in Hamilton, you're doing housing in Craddock Road, the water development up in Hamilton, etc. And I must say that water development is, for me, perhaps the most profound of all, because we know water is life.
Yes.
And we have had so many occasions here when our people have been out of water. You turn on the pipes and there's no water. We have to ration water. And we know because of climate change we've had tough droughts that have come from time to time. But here it is that this government, under your leadership in that ministry, took the decision that rather than having a high yielding well just sitting there, we would invest the money to treat the water and make it potable, make it usable, and bring it to WHO standards. And that water is now being put in the system, and that has really boosted our supply in a significant way. But not only that, we had a lot of losses because tanks were leaking, and a lot of people in the Hamilton area, I myself have driven up there time and time again and called you and said to you, water running on the road up here because the tanks were leaking and the like. Again, those things we have tried to fix by a brand new tank and fixing now the old tank, which I'm happy that I was there with you the other day, and I had already commissioned or about to be commissioned. These are significant developments as we talk about how we develop a country and how we move the island forward. And then to expand outwards now and talk about what you've done island-wide. When you started to list the roads, I really understand why some people are upset with you and say you're doing too many roads, because Brown Hill, we said Box Hill, I think it was. You mentioned, of course, you're now in Butlers. You're doing all these roadways around the island. And I think, again, that is very significant. It's very significant because we need improved infrastructure. And that is why sometimes, Spencer, I marvel at the boldness, or I believe the old people say the barefacedness of people who would look at this record and say, nothing is happening. Would turn on their pipes every day and get water in abundance, something that we didn't have before, and say nothing is happening. To look at the upgrades, and one of the things that I'm so proud of is when we do roads, we also do the upgrade in the water distribution system.
Absolutely.
Bigger pipes,
Yes.
better pipes. We've removed all the old iron pipes.
That's right.
So we've improved all around. And yet you hear the refrain, nothing is happening. And so I wonder sometimes if people are deaf, dumb, and blind, because as some youngster pointed out to me the other day, he said even Stevie Wonder would be able to see. I mean, Stevie Wonder can't see. So if we say even Stevie would be able to see, it really begs the question, why is it that people who claim that they are pundits and pontificators can't themselves see? So we have that is happening. And one of the things that I don't think you've emphasized enough, but which, as you know, has been a hallmark of this government, is that we have insisted that the works that we're doing, for the most part, be done by our own people. So when we hear about a road being done in Brown Hill, or a road being done in Butlers, I just use those two by way of example, our people should understand that we mean that those roads are actually being done by individuals.
Absolutely.
Public Works is taking the leadership, yes, but the backer man, the excavator man, the local contractors who are doing the walls and the curbs, etc., it's all local people.
Absolutely.
And that has been our policy, and we don't get enough credit for it, because there was a time in this country when that never happened, and that all of the major infrastructure was done by foreign companies, and therefore the money that was spent went back out of the country.
That's right.
We have changed that and said, listen, we are going to spend money in such a way that the money that we spend will circulate
In the country.
in the local economy.
That's right.
Now, I'm not an economist, I wasn't trained, but I understand how money flows, and that flow of money within the local economy is a fundamental reason why we see now a lot of young people, young men and things owning a truck, they own a back, or whatever the case may be, because they have been incentivized to invest. And they have invested, and for the most part we're seeking to spread that work across the range of service providers now, who are again all local. And that says something to me, because in the past those same youngsters would have been kicking stone on the side of the road while trucks and backhoes and things zoom past them. So the policy that we've had, and I say for the most part because obviously we have gone to other contractors when Public Works has been so stretched
Yes.
that they don't have the capacity to do it all. And we have not just used contractors, as you pointed out. We've invested in equipment. Our Public Works department now is the envy of many, because we have, and I will tell you, you laugh, but I put on Twitter, or it might have been Instagram, a photo of the new paver that you bought. And I'm so happy that it was tested out going up the road by me. Not my road, but certainly in my neighborhood.
Yeah, in a difficult area.
Brought tremendous relief to those people in that neighborhood. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram. And my dear friend and brother, Hayden Hughes, minister in Angola, immediately got in touch with me and said to me, boy, this, they're now trying to do some road works in Angola, and that this piece of equipment looking so sweet. Yeah. And he's seen it and he's saying, boy, I have had calls from St. Kitts where the question has come, listen, is it available that we could perhaps borrow it over here to do something over here because of the quality finish that you're looking for. I mean, these are far-reaching, forward-thinking investments that inure to the benefit of the people of Nevis and the sustainable development of our island. And so when I continue to hear the refrain, nothing is happening, I hear somebody whom I know drives on the Brantley Road every single day. A road that was not touched for over 50 years is now a highway. And they said nothing was done. I remember when we were doing Craddock Road, Spencer, that somebody who was a Craddock Roadian,
Yes.
somebody who lived there all their life, tell me
Yes.
that is over 60 years that Craddock Road was not touched.
I think I know who the person is, because the person said the same thing to me.
So, you know, I mean, these are fundamental things. And the irony of ironies for me is when I hear the chat on the one hand that nothing is being done, you then bring the evidence of all that is being done, and then you hear the refrain, I don't want to hear nothing more roads because building roads is not development. But yet you have people who are out there on a daily basis trying to make politics out of a piece of road that is not done yet. They say, how come this ain't done yet? This ain't. And you know, you have this muddled approach to what is supposed to be, I suppose, opposition in the country. So, my view is that as a government, and I think you have been in the cabinet for the last 4 years,
Yes.
we have worked as a team,
Yes.
and you could attest, as all of us could attest, to the fact that we do things in a very methodical and
Systematic.
sensible way.
Yeah.
We're not just doing things because somebody jump up and say. A lot of projects, as you know, such as the Island Main Road, the balance of the Island Main Road from
Cliff Dwellers.
Cliff Dwellers to Newcastle, that has been in the works. The plans are already done.
Yep.
But again,
costings available.
Costing and the money. That has been the issue. And even so, we continue to work on getting those matters resolved. So it is one thing to have the plans. It is one thing to want to put things in place. Of course, we have had. And I just want the public, and Spencer, you are here. You can speak to these matters as eloquently as any, because you have sat in the cabinet and you've seen the agony and the anguish as we try to make $1 out of 50 cents. We have tried our best to see, and all of the ministries, remember, had to give up funding.
Well,
because we had to allocate and reallocate and
absolutely.
say, Spencer, you hold on that piece of road there because health needs money. We need PPE.
Yes.
We need ambulance. We need whatever. We need ventilators. And you know, this is the reality of what our situation has been like over the past 2 years, that we have had to manage in an incredibly difficult environment.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct, Prim, that over the last 2 years it has been extremely difficult. And I think that the general public would appreciate that if it were not for COVID. I remember when we had our 2019 budget discussion going into 2020, that period was an extremely exciting period going into that. It was, even if COVID had happened in 2021, the year 2020 was projected to be a year of major, even greater transformation on the island of Nevis. Not because of the plans and programs and initiatives that the government itself was putting in place, but because the Four Seasons Hotel would have just gone through a major significant upgrade, and the projection at Four Seasons was significant. And with that twin with what the government was planning, we would have seen major transformation here on the island of Nevis. It has been a bit slower than we would have liked, but the reality is it was because of COVID. I'm glad you spoke about the road there from Cliff Dwellers to Newcastle, or by the expectual Nisbet area. Now, all of us would know from the Cotton Ground area to Cliff Dwellers the condition of what that road was. And the opposition while they were in opposition prior to 2006, had all manner of evil to say about that piece of road. And the funny thing is that they came in government in 2006. However they got into government, that's a different story. But they came into government in 2006. And at the time when they left government in 2013, they did not even move 1 square inch of asphalt of trying to fix that problem there. And it is baffling at times that we have gone in and fixed that section of road, and they still have not even appreciated the fact that that area has been fixed based on the condition that it was. We are now in the Butlers area, Prim, and we have done some significant work there in the Butlers area. We have seen the first asphalt that was laid in the Siston Part area and also in the range area. We have some additional work there to do along the second part of it, going from the Seventh-day Adventist Church back up to Clarence Shop, that area, and we are expected to get going on that shortly. We are also in Bath Village. We have done some preliminary work on the what we call the bypass section of Bath Village from Von Radio going over to Conchel, where persons can get in and out of Bath Village once the main section of road would be constructed. So even in this difficult period, we continue to ensure that we deliver on the commitments that we would have made to the people of Nevis. I also want to touch very briefly on the legislative side of my ministry, because we have had in this country the Nevis Physical and Development Planning Ordinance for some time, but we did not really have the regulations that went with it. And I realized that while the process was started or had started, the importance of the regulations to the development of Nevis was critical. And we were able in 2020 and in 2021 to bring those regulations to Parliament and to the people of Nevis. That for me again is a significant accomplishment, because what it does, it gives anyone who is desirous of doing any kind of development on the island of Nevis clarity. It gives a clear path. It gives the necessary information and guidance to the development of the island of Nevis. And I feel that once those persons who are engaged in the industry are fully up to speed with what those regulations are, then we will see a significant turnaround time, and we will see, I believe, more systematic development here on the island of Nevis. So that as well has been a significant accomplishment as well.
Well, Spencer, it's been almost an hour. We have been going back and forth and discussing, largely focused on you and what it is you have been doing. And I think that your presence in the cabinet, your representation of the people of St. Paul's, your representation of the wider island of Nevis has really been transformational. I think that's the word we would have to use, because we see the DNA all across. In ministries that are not even your own, we see the DNA. And I particularly like how the government and the camaraderie and the unity that we have in the cabinet, how it has really worked, because we call upon each other.
Yes.
And so the team at Public Works, as you pointed out, would have done the Lawrencetown Parry facility there at Prospect,
yes,
for agriculture. You would be engaged, I'm told, I believe it's in the coming week, you will be paving the parking lot at the hospital,
yes,
which we know needs some work that will be taken care of. And so we continue to do the necessary work, not to mention, you didn't mention it, or I didn't hear you mention it, the excellent work that was done there at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. The transformation. Somebody said to me the other day when they're driving that area now, they feel like they're in a different country. The road was widened, turn-off created to take you down to Pinnis. We did most of the road going down to the beach, and I would just let the public know that the rest of that will be done. The reason we stopped there was, of course, we wanted to have the necessary done for the opening of the park.
Yes, yes.
But that again is phenomenal work, and the way that the team at Public Works has risen to the occasion, the director and his team, you know, fellas like Danny and Dangles and Buju and all of the team,
Yes.
you know, the extent of work that they would have done and the confidence that they have. And I have to emphasize that because the reason they have that level of confidence is that we have confidence in them.
Yes, you allow them to do their work.
We allow them to do their work.
Yes, you give them the necessary tools and equipment and allow them to do their
Allow
work.
them to do their work. And so these fellas know, and when I hear that they are even going elsewhere and assisting,
Yes, they actually
Huh?
went over to.
they went over to St.
They went over to St. Kitts and gave some assistance over there.
Still over there. That tells you that we have here expertise that is qualified and competent, and we have never had to tell them to practice and learn how to drive
Oh no!
because they don't know what they're doing.
Oh no!
Instead, we have said to them, we have confidence in you. Go out as Nivisions and perform. And they have done
And
so.
they have done so.
It is 4 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. We're going to open the lines now and see if anybody out there wants to talk to us. Spencer, if they don't want to talk to us, we're going to have to go to the next chapter of what you've been doing. So let us see. The numbers are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Sheriff, good night.
How are you, my dear?
I am good.
Yes.
Good night, Honorable Brand.
Good night. Good night. How are you?
Well, I'm giving God thanks.
Yes.
Amen.
Psalm 91 verse 1 and 2. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my fortress, and my God, in Him will I trust. Sympathy is going out to all who lose their loved ones. And good night to culture. Come in. Let's hear you tonight. Bye.
Thank you very much for that, my dear. Thank you for your call, as always. You always call with a nice scripture for us. And one of your constituents,
Yes,
Mr. Brandt,
Yes, I know.
who is a regular on the mark. It is 2 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. We have another hour and 2 minutes to go. So we're taking your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of this show. Minister, part of your responsibility is posts.
Yes.
Have there been any developments in that regard that you would like to share with us?
Well, I think posts have been one of the hardest hit areas because of the COVID situation. It suffered really badly in COVID because of the airlift situation into the region. A lot of our mails from Europe and to some extent the US were significantly affected. But despite that, we were able to do a number of things in the post. We were able to brought online our automated system there at the post. So that has been a success as well, despite the downturn in the volume of mails and other packages. But we have seen some signs of rebounding in those areas. I must say that the movement of mail has been a significant challenge, not only for Nevis, but St. Kitts and Nevis in general, and other countries in the region. I know that we were exploring other possibilities of moving our mails. We have even spoken to American Airlines to try and get our mails and our packages in. But that aspect of the post has been badly hit, extremely difficult. Because of COVID and because of the reduction in the amount of weight that the airlines were now carrying. But other than that, the staff is still highly motivated. They are a happy bunch there, and they continue to do great work. Even when the islands were locked down, they still try to accommodate, because you know that there were persons who needed to get at times medication and other things that came in from overseas, so they still try to accommodate the general public in some way. And I think that with the work that they continue to do to serve the public is definitely highly commended, and I certainly want to thank them.
Minister, insofar as water is concerned, you would have automated the water billing system I believe. Am I correct in that saying that?
Yes, well, what we have done, we would have basically allow you to now have the option to pay your water bills online. We had a system there in terms of automation, but it was upgraded, improved on, but we have now added the option of paying your water bills online, and that has been, a number of persons continue to sign up for it, and that has been going pretty well.
So you're saying now that you have advanced to the point where you can, in the comfort of your home,
Absolutely.
just pay your water bill.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Good. It is 9 o'clock on the dot. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you would like to be a part of the show. And for those of you just joining us, this is Mark Brantley, the host of On the Mark. And I have with me this evening a very special guest, the Honorable Spencer Brand, who has been talking a bit about his tenure as minister and his tenure as representative of the proud people of the parish of St. Paul's. And Minister Brand has used nearly an hour to lay out in some detail what he has been up to. And we have heard, for those just joining us, of his incredible work to bring more water supply to the people of St. Paul's and the wider island, to bring more water storage, better water distribution, to ensure that the people of St. Paul's have additional housing, some 36 families to benefit from new housing in St. Paul's, and also, of course, a number of roads and culverts and drainage issues that he has solved in education, the enhancements that have been done at the Charlestown's primary school, all as a result of the initiatives taken by Mr. Brand in his constituency. He has also spoken about the tremendous level of infrastructural development, particularly road development, that has occurred across the island, and the plans that the government has and the ministry spearheaded by him has to extend that to other parts of the island, including, of course, the rest of the island main road. But Minister Brand, you make a good point, and I like to sometimes, you see, touch on the politics of it, because the NRP in opposition spoke consistently and almost, I would say, incessantly about this road from Cotton Ground.
Yes.
They call it every name in the book. I remember this name about that. Was it a $10 million mistake?
Yes.
They had all kinds of things to
$1 million
say.
mistake.
$1 million mistake. And at the end of all of that, you get into government in
And
2006.
did not do a thing about it.
And you did nothing. We had to get back into government
To fix it.
to fix it.
Yes.
And if my recollection is correct, that passenger road was fixed under your watch.
Absolutely.
So, again, when you when you look at these things, you wonder the sincerity and the integrity of people.
Yes.
Because if in opposition you have such a great problem with a piece of infrastructure, that you're now in government and have the opportunity, and remember that you're in government during a time when there was no COVID,
That's it.
no global pandemic.
That's it.
Here we've had a global pandemic that is even still now affecting us. I spoke
Right.
to the Four Seasons about 2.5 weeks ago. And ordinarily, we all know that Nevis would have been chock-a-block of people all know, because December, January, February, March,
April, yes.
full of people.
Yes.
And they were in December predicting a very robust season. And they said because of Omicron,
Things fell out.
everybody cancelled.
Yes.
Now they say, as people realize that perhaps Omicron is not as deadly as we would have thought, that the bookings are starting to come back. But that is now our reality.
Yes.
We can't plan, and I am happy you made reference, Spencer, to 2019, because 2019 I felt so confident.
Yes, I remember that budget discussion. Everybody was excited.
We were buoyant, we were bullish, we were, we were in almost, I would say, effervescent, because we understood that based on what we had on paper,
Yes.
that Nevis would be looking pretty.
Yes.
And we did not get to March before COVID got to our shores. And the whole country went into lockdown. Could you imagine that our airports for the first time in our history were closed, our borders were closed?
Yes.
Closed. And yet you hear the refrain, COVID don't matter.
Well,
You shouldn't say anything about COVID or COVID you're talking about. As if the rest of the world was impacted by COVID, but Nevis was not. And so, again, I emphasize that all that you have described has happened notwithstanding 2 years lost to us to this pandemic. And one could only wonder if we had had the 2020 that had been predicted,
oh yeah,
where this island would have been today.
absolutely.
Where this island would have been today. And that has been the reality.
You know, I mean, like I said, the projections that we had for 2020, we definitely wanted to complete that second phase from Cliff Dwellers all the way over to Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the cards. I remember when my permanent secretary called me and told me, Mr. Minister, you know, our budget has been significantly cut. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Minister, you know, I mean, that's what the instructions are. And within a matter of a day or two, you realize the impact of what COVID had on the island of Nevis. So all of our projections for 2020 literally had to just go on the shelf. And some of the things that we had on the ground, we basically try and manage them the best way we can, but that was the reality. That second phase of the road from Cliff Dwellers all the way to Newcastle, I know the folks in that area continue to ask us to get it completed, but the reality is, because of our limited or the unavailability, let me use that word, of resources, we are not able to do it. But we are working on it. We are looking at that section of the road from Cliff Dwellers all the way over to Newcastle. I mean, just today we would have had a look at it in cabinet again, and last week we looked at it. But the reality is that in the absence of the necessary resources, we basically just have to hold things a little bit longer. I'm hoping that the good folks at finance would say to me, well, Mr. Minister, you have a window to do what you needed to do and get it done, and we will get it done. You know, so that has been our reality over the last 2 years. We have sought to partner with the various ministries. I know we have done some work with fisheries, the building there in Charlestown. We would have done some upgrade and tiling and remove some dangerous concrete and so on. We are at this very moment over at the Vance W. Amber International Airport trying to assist the firefighters with some proper access to their machinery. So the ministry and public works in itself have partnered with various ministries, especially in this time of COVID, to bring assistance. Our water department would have partnered with agriculture again, giving, I would say, probably free waters to our farmers to make sure that we increase and improve our food security. We have used our heavy equipments to clear land and assist. So while some people may not see well, they are seeing the roads, but they are still saying that there is no road being done, or why. Yes, so sometimes I think that sometimes they are confused, to be honest. But I think if and when we get this COVID situation at the comfort level, and I listened very keenly to the task force press briefing today, and I am very much encouraged with the message that is coming out of the COVID task force, especially today. Dr. Cameron and Abia Samuels, the kind of language that they are now using. And I'm seeing that we are getting around that corner where we can maybe not necessarily begin to function 100% as normal, but at a point where we can be a lot more flexible in what we are trying to do here on the island of Nevis.
Well, Spencer, I'm happy that you have pointed that out, because I think we have to get to a stage where we move forward. Today, for example, we were discussing the return of interprimary.
Yes.
And I have said in uncertain terms that the people of Nevis have been deprived of this sporting event for the past 2 years, and we cannot continue like that. We have to be able to proceed to some level of normalcy. I continue to invite and encourage our people to go and get vaccinated, because that is a critical protection. I had a conversation with someone from Nevis who has an serious underlying illness, who is suffering from COVID, and he said to me that he thought that the vaccination saved his life.
Wow.
That had he not been vaccinated, that he would not have made it. And I thought that was quite a sort of personal narrative, a personal testimony that this individual gave. And so we continue to encourage, but I am encouraged by what I'm hearing, because you're absolutely correct. We have to now get the country to the next level. And when we look around the world, we look at what the UK has done, for example. We look at what some other places in Europe are doing. Just as I was leaving home, I was looking at CNN, and they were saying that mask mandates are being lifted in many areas now, even in liberal cities like New York and those places. They're now saying that you no longer need to wear your mask at restaurants, etc. So the world has come to the realization that after 2 years, when family and gatherings and social interaction has been on hold, on hiatus, that we now need to get back to being human. And we're hopeful that people are sensible and that people will protect themselves, because as we have seen, we now have, I think, 33 as of today persons who would have died from COVID-19 here in the Federation. And one death is one too many.
One too many.
So we understand that, but we need our people now to get back to some sense of normalcy. And so we are working on having inter-primary sports. We're saying to the schools that they should have their sports day, because we recognize that sports is also a critical part of the students' overall development. You know how important sports is to your own school in your constituency, the Charleston Primary.
It's a big thing.
So you athletics, I mean, we beat you consistently in cricket and football at the Prospect Primary. Ivor Walters. Sometimes. But athletics, you have been champions for a long time. And so this is important to the overall development of our children. And we are hopeful that parents will be responsible. We continue to do various innovative things here in Nevis to get people vaccinated, like the raffles that we're having now for the teens, saying that we have things like iPhone 13, Samsung phones, we have earpods, we have...
I believe that would encourage a lot of the younger persons to get vaccinated.
And that's the idea.
I certainly want to encourage them, because I think, and what we are seeing now, even on the global stage, more and more sporting activities are taking place. Sunday we have the Super Bowl, and I think that in itself is going to signal to the world that things are coming back. To have a Super Bowl in 2022 is saying to the world, hey, things are coming back. We have had a number of cricket events throughout the world, and while there were certain limitations and so on, we are now seeing the Winter Olympics there in China. So I think slowly, but I want to join with you and appeal to our people who have not availed themselves of being vaccinated. The vaccine are free, and it can save your life. I don't know if we can make it any more simpler or any more plainer. The vaccine are free, the science is safe, and it can save your life. Do not wake up tomorrow morning and say, if I been no. You may not have that chance to say, if I been no. And I want to join with you, Prem, to appeal to our people who have, and I think that while there are being various concerns of persons, and persons have the right to be concerned about things, but I think that all of the scientific data, all of the I would say the right thinking scientists have said to us on a global stage that this thing is safe, it can save your life, it can prevent you from being in a critical state. And I am not so certain as to why there are still this hesitation. for getting the vaccine. I have listened to our own healthcare professionals here in St. Kitts and Nevis continue to make the plea over and over and over again. And I am not certain what else that they can do. I'm not certain that you yourself, Prim, from this very platform, have appealed to our people to try and get themselves vaccinated. And it's for their own safety. We are not saying that we are doing anything to you that would bring any detriment to your person. We want you to be safe. We want you to be able to go back to work. I know that there have been some businesses throughout the Federation have signaled very clearly if a person is not vaccinated, they cannot work. And are you going to deprive yourself of earning a living just by not taking the vaccine? Are you going to deprive yourself of being able to pay your mortgage because you are prepared to give up your job because you don't intend to get vaccinated? And I think that we have to look at it in those light and ensure that we do what is necessary and get yourselves vaccinated.
Well, I think that that's an important plea, and I was checking my phone here because I have fact checkers out there, and someone just reminded me that we've had 39 deaths, 39, not 33. There's actually been 33 in St. Kitts, with an additional death reported today, and 6 on Nevis. And so our condolences go out, but as I said, that one death is one too many. And what I find has been remarkable here in Nevis, that all of the deaths that we've had in Nevis are unvaccinated. All are unvaccinated. So that speaks for itself.
Yes.
That speaks for itself. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just about 17 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We continue to try and get your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700 if you want to be part of this program this evening. I'm here with the Honorable Spencer Brand, the representative for the good people of St. Paul's. We say St. Paul's Charlestown, but it's much bigger than just Charlestown. It stretches, of course, from right here at Bathgut, they would say,
Bathgut,
and goes all the way over to Craddock Road, where it then gives way to the great parish of St. Thomas's. So we have decided that we would bring the ministers here and the representatives, that they can report, they can have an opportunity to speak with you and to engage in some dialogue with members of the public. I often say, Spencer, that you can't be a public servant and be afraid to come to the public.
Well,
you have to be able to be here. Let's go to the phones, therefore, and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening to you.
Good evening.
How are you doing, sir?
We're well, and it's good to have you on the show again.
Thank you.
Yes.
And good evening to my brother.
Good evening, brother. How are you?
Spencer. You guys are doing a marvelous job, man.
Well, thank you.
All right. Mr. Premier, I call in just to give a little information. Of course, I was there last week, and I spoke about the cleanup campaign that I'm having for this month in my constituency. I just wanted to give a little update where that is concerned. But before I do so, I just wanted to extend some belated birthday greetings to Miss Ursula Rogers there in Zetland, who celebrated birthday number 95 on Monday. I would have visited Miss Rogers yesterday, and she is looking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say amazing, I mean truly amazing for 95. And our seniors on Nevis continue to age gracefully.
Yep.
And I continue to say that I believe one of the reasons why they're aging so gracefully is because of the excellent care that they are getting from us as an administration. And when I spoke to her, she said she's doing everything for herself. She's cooking for herself. She's washing for herself. She's cleaning for herself. She lives on her own. She goes to church practically every Sunday, I believe. And it's amazing how well she's looking for 95. So, Mrs. Rogers, good evening to you, and continue to look well. And by the look of things, I believe you're going to cross that century mark, God's willing. But I just want to say belated birthday greetings to you. It's amazing how you have aged so gracefully and looking so good at 95. I also want to join with you, gentlemen, in extending some condolences. I think it would be remiss of me if I would have come on tonight and didn't do so. First to the family of the late Tom's Wilkes. Of course, as you would have mentioned, Premier, most people know him as an educator, but my personal knowledge of Tom's came when he worked at the Department of Cooperatives. We worked together there at Bellevue. And as you rightly said, Tom's, you couldn't beat him when it comes to dressing.
Sharp.
So I want to extend the heartfelt condolences to the family, his children, his sister Sonia and the rest of the family. I know it's going to be a big loss for you. Take heart. Also to the family of the late Franklin Lawrence, especially to his dear wife, who is my very good friend, to you and the children. And of course, we know that we would have lost Pharaoh last evening. He worked in my department, and actually when at his passing, he was still a member of staff at the Department of Community Development. And of course, everybody knew Pharaoh from his work with the Culture Department and with culture on the island of Nevis. And so I'm extending condolences to all of his relatives, especially to his children, Siobhan and Cheslin, and of course to the sisters and brothers and the entire family. And of course to my own Department of Community Development, the entire staff there, on the loss of Pharaoh. Now to the cleanup campaign, Mr. Premier. I just want to say that last week, last Saturday, this past Saturday, we were supposed to have a cleanup campaign of white goods. And the cleanup campaign started extremely well. On Saturday morning, the truckers would have started early o'clock. Unfortunately, we had to abort the process. We had to halt it because the plan was that we had 6 bins in various areas in Gingerland, and the plan was that the bins would have been emptied as soon as they are filled up, and they would have been brought back to those areas that they were. Unfortunately, that could not have happened because I believe everybody knew that we had a torrential downpour on Friday night. We had a lot of rain, practically all night on Friday night, and so we had a situation at the landfill where the truck drivers were not able to empty the bins on that day. And so unfortunately, instead of us having the process running all day on Saturday, it had to be aborted. We absolutely had to stop because the trucks would not have been able to maneuver at the landfill based on the conditions over there. And so the bins were taken up, and unfortunately they were not able to be brought back on that day. We had a situation where persons had already put their white goods out to the roadside, and so unfortunately some of them were not picked up. And I just want to apologize and just say that it's absolutely no fault of the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, no fault of the drivers, no fault of the organizing of that initiative, but it's because of the weather. The weather did not work with us for that particular weekend. And the plan was for us to have that white goods cleaned up for 2 weekends, last Saturday and this coming Saturday. Now, I'm sure persons would realize that we had a lot of rain on the weekend, and we've been having rain practically every day so far this week. And so the plan was for us to continue the white goods cleanup this coming Saturday. However, I would have spoken to the manager, Mr. Andrew Hendrickson of the Solid Waste Management Authority, this evening, and he would have advised me that the situation at the landfill is such that they're still not being able to maneuver. The trucks are sticking. The ground is extremely wet. And we are not certain that this will dry out by weekend. And so the manager has advised that we postpone the activity for this coming Saturday until the following Saturday. And so I want to inform the folks in Gingerland that unfortunately we would not be able to continue this Saturday because of the wet conditions prevailing at the landfill. But the activity will continue the following Saturday, and if necessary, because initially it was supposed to be 2 Saturdays. But on this past Saturday, we had to abort. We were only able to make 1 trip, with the truck, with the bins, and so we were not able to do what we were supposed to do on that Saturday. So in essence, we still have 2 Saturdays to complete the job, and so hopefully we will continue next Saturday, not this Saturday coming, and then we'll see what happens for the following Saturday. So I'm asking persons for your patience. As I said, this is no doing of ours. This is because of the weather, and the trucks will not be able to maneuver at the landfill, so we will not be able to continue this Saturday. So those of you who have not put your white goods out yet, please do not put them out yet, as we would unfortunately not be able to continue this Saturday. So we are asking you for your patience, and we will continue as the weather permits and as the situation permits at the landfill. I want to say a special thanks to the truckers and the drivers and the helpers, because they did they did a tremendous job in moving the white goods, and most of the persons did not have the transportation to move their white goods to the bins, and the truckers did a great job in getting to the bins. The bins, they were out very early. As a matter of fact, by after 8, some of the bins were already full. And so the response was overwhelming, but unfortunately, I said we had to abort the process. I want to make a special appeal to persons who have white goods, because unfortunately, the situation was this past Saturday that the bins were too full. The bins were full, and people continued to put their white goods in. And the drivers have complained that when the bins are so full, they would not be able to take all, because they do not want any of the white goods to be falling off on the road. And so I'm appealing, please, to persons who have things to put in the white goods. I know the truckers were very particular, but there were other persons who were taking their white goods there. If the bins are full, please do not overfill them, overload them, because they would not be able to take them. And in addition to that, please do not take your white goods to the areas and put them on the ground. Wait until the bins are empty and they come back. So we want your cooperation, we want your support, as the manager would have said in a news item earlier this evening. There's absolutely no need for persons to be doing illegal and indiscriminate dumping now that we are providing this opportunity to you. So once again, please, we will not be able to continue this coming Saturday because of the weather, and we will continue the following Saturday. So in the meantime, if you have white goods, please do not put them out. If you have put them out already, so be it. But those of you who haven't put them out yet, please desist from putting them out this week. We will get back to you with more information next week, for the following Saturday, once the weather permits. And once again, please, I'm appealing to you, do not overfill the bins. That would be to the detriment of the drivers, and of course, we don't want any accidents on the road when the bins are being taken to the landfill. So once again, it went extremely well, and I want to thank all who were involved, and we ask you for your patience, and we ask you for your continued support as we continue the following Saturday.
Thank you very much, Eric, for that comprehensive update, and I am delighted to hear that your cleanup has been going well.
Yes.
Yes, the weather has intervened, and I'm sure the good people of St. George would understand that. And I think that these initiatives, I recognize that the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, has done so in St. James, that Minister Brand, who is here with me, has done so in St. Paul's. You're doing so in St. George. I believe that working with the community advisor, Latoya Jones, St. Thomas's was also handled, and that therefore just leaves the parish of St. John's. And so I will need to step up to ensure that the parish of St. John's as well is taken care of in that regard. So certainly I think we're cleanliness is next to godliness, and we're making sure that our communities remain clean. So, Honorable, thank you for that.
And I just want to quickly remind the residents of Gingerland as well that even though we're going to continue with the white goods cleanup, we're still scheduled to do a community-wide cleanup on the 19th of this month. So that's not this coming Saturday, following Saturday. So the white goods cleanup is scheduled to continue on the 19th, but also on the 19th we also want to continue with our community-wide cleanup, where we're going to be asking persons within their own little villages and communities to do cleanup. And then on the final Saturday, on the 26th, then we do the beach and the coastal cleanup, and that will be done down in the Indian Castle and the surrounding areas for that Saturday, the 26th.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
night.
Thank you very much for that and for the call. Spencer, how did your cleanup in St. Paul's go?
Well, it went very well actually, and we have already been considering having it again, because there was still one or two areas that we weren't able to get completed. But I think that this kind of initiative is extremely important, because there's a lot of these white goods just lying around in person's yard, and some person may not necessarily have the means to have them removed, and I think that offering this kind of service allow a lot of these white goods to be removed, and what it does, it also eliminate the possible breeding grounds for rodents and those kind of things and so on. So it's not only enhancing the site, but it's also enhancing the environment by having these removed. I would recommend it island-wide as often as possible, because a lot of these pieces of equipment now are not being made as durable as they used to. So after a couple of years, they are not working. So, and I don't think that we have as many persons around who are fixing these kind of things now. So it is a very, very good initiative, and I certainly encourage it, and I think that once it becomes available in the various parishes and various constituencies, I want to encourage our people to take advantage of it. And from what I'm hearing from Minister Evelyn, it's obvious that the folks at Gingerland would have taken advantage of this opportunity to have some of those white goods disposed of.
All right. Well, I think that those are initiatives that, again, all about the community, and that ultimately is what we seek to be about. And St. John's, I can assure you that we will be coming there as well and ensuring that the environment remains pristine. We have had some good reports that, persons are working on ensuring, and I continue to appeal, Spencer, and I know you join me in that appeal, to our people not to litter, not to dump indiscriminately, but rather to take care of Nevis and have that national pride. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
And how are you?
I am well, thank you.
I will just start. I think I hear the advisors from Barnescourt. I'm from Barnescourt, and you know who I am.
Yes.
Mr. Brantley, the the water department have made a mess in the back way. We call it the back way where we living. Mr. Brantley, I'm an old man, and I have to be so careful not sliding on the gravel. I can't afford to broke nowhere, right? I mean, no time. You understand? And it needs fixing properly. It needs fixing. And I know I talk in the truth. When I call a radio session, I don't talk in my life. I hear you, Mr. Brand, speak a lot about what you do and the road and whatever, and the other minister, the health thing, the cleanup and thing. Mr. Brantley, our hospital needs a good attention. Mr. Brantley, our hospital, Alexandria Hospital, needs a good attention. It hurts my heart, Mr. Brantley, to know how much things that people can overcome, can get fixed, go in the hospital and do not come back. It really hurts.
How you know that? You're a doctor?
I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor, Mr. Brantley. I want to be on the aggressive side.
No, it's not about...
Just listen to the poor man like me.
Call up.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Mr. Brantley, listen to me, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Listen to me, please.
Yes.
Even for the first time, listen to the poor old lady here. Right? I remember, and I'm going to tell you this, you may not like it, and a lot of people may not like it. The dialysis machine that, it seems to me like, and I feel like government is a relay. One lose, one take up the bat and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And fix things. Mr. Brantley is sitting in my house at night when Kenny. And if Kenny mother still alive, you could ask Kenny. Me Hillary alive out here, and I don't want to make both on myself. This boy is the boy that I used to look for. And for a reason, I had stopped. And I saw you in a thing where he went in Guyana or something, and you say you bring back machine and this Kenny and Dr. walking, the packing, the whole work. We can't remember everything. We remember how to do the tour in Nevis and sell my beautiful island of Nevis. That's what we want. But I wanted to put, you can look at the hospital and focus and spend a lot of money there. Machine, doctors, training. You know, Nevis is a beautiful place. And it's getting there. And we need help. If we don't have help, we have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? We have nothing. If a finger hurt me, I feel kind of weak and down. A foot hurting me, I still ever feel pain. Right? We need good attention there. And again, before I forget my thoughts, Mr. Brantley, we have, if you listen, and I have this tape, that not a beautiful island I used to live for years, St. Martin. The immigration are picking up left, right, and center. They're in the middle of Phillipsburg. And look out for your people to come back here in Nevis. And I haven't seen them. I lived there 16 years. And before I even get straightened, I used to run and hide and duck and all them things. And up to when they call me back for my passport there, I tell him the police, I'm not coming back. I got home to live. I'm not coming back. I have children. God bless Rosa. She's a smart girl. You know, she born there, have two children born, Rosa and Richie. And she look after her children. But look for a force of your own people coming back here in Nevis. Believe me, it will happen.
Okay.
And what you will do, we have work for them to do, Mr. Brantley. I put everything in a nutshell here, but I focus more on the health and the hospital. You tell me I'm not a doctor, which I've been younger. I tell everybody that. I will go into nursing because let me tell you all something. I'm not any nurses listening to me. Nursing is a ministry, right? Sometimes you're the first one that saw somebody come into the world. Yes. And God forbid, the last one to see someone out.
Yes.
It's not, the money is there, but it's a ministry. You minister to people. It's a thing. You understand? And please, Mr. Brantley, our hospital need attention.
All right.
You go ahead tell me what doctor I'm gonna be.
Okay, no. I raised the point because you said people go hospital
and didn't come out.
and they could have been a simple thing. So I want to know how you know that. That is all I'm asking.
You know that for sure. You didn't say it.
All right.
Mr. Brantley,
I can't say that. I call her, you see, I can't say that. I'm not as bold as you. Because how I can say that, caller? I don't know. I go to the hospital, I visit people, I don't ask them what is wrong with them. That is not for me to ask them.
Mr. Brantley, I used to be in the hospital. Let me tell you something. I used to be in the hospital years ago. My thing was before the taxi I was doing bus. So after I dropped the kids, I used to up there and go from bed to bed and pray and talk to people and, you know, encourage people and all them things. And Dr. Ravi, sorry to call his name, but I could call him, always happy that I come and I do that. I remember when my grandmother had got a first stroke there. They had given my grandmother like 2 months or 3 months to live. My grandmother lived 3 years to 2 years. I think 2 to 3 years. And the attention that I minister to my grandmother, and I will do it for anybody else. But Mr. Brantley, it's the old-time thing we're talking about. This is new-time thing. Mr. Brantley, here's some money. Take the money. Focus on a lot of things for the hospital, please.
Okay.
I'm telling you that tonight.
Okay. We hear you. We hear the passion.
This is what I want to do. I will hold on good and walk with 2 sticks. But the hospital, machine, get doctors to fix and nurses to train and all that stuff.
Okay. All right, caller. We hear you.
I don't want me off the radio, man.
Well, you have been talking for a while. You want me to answer you? You just want to continue to talk?
No, I want to listen to an insult me.
But I'm not insulting you. I'm asking you if you don't want to go off the radio. How am I going to answer you?
Okay. I'm asking you to get the hospital up.
You said that 10 times already, so that's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm going to say so again, and that's going to be my reputation.
Okay, so that's...
everybody to know that.
Okay.
Okay?
So you done with the recitation now? Or you want to recite it again?
I come
come again as much as I can, and I'm giving you the dialect right now. I'm not disrespecting you, no. I respect you.
No, I understand, but I'm just asking, how many times you going to tell us the same thing, or you want me to respond?
Yes, so I'm about to I'm feeling weary.
Okay. Well, we can't afford for you to get weary on the radio. So we will thank you. We will thank you for your contribution.
Well, let me come off a long time you don't hear me, you know. Long time you don't.
So you're making up for all the time when I hear you?
I myself not to go on this radio station anymore.
Yes.
But something hurting me, I just can't stop there and squeeze.
Okay. All right.
I got to ball out.
Okay, caller, thank you very much for your contribution. Now, here's the situation, and I recognize the passion in your voice.
Yes.
Minister Brand, the caller said something about a road and water works. I think we can look at that.
I believe that what would have happened is that there was a broken line there that they would have dug up, repaired, and they just probably need to go back and
sort it out.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you've called the right person because he's here, so we can get that done. Now, about the hospital. You know, the reason I listen is because I recognize that healthcare is being used by the opposition in Nevis as a political football. And it's unfortunate, and it is regrettable. You know, it's unfortunate and regrettable, caller, because this government has invested so heavily in healthcare, especially during this COVID-19 environment. If you were listening earlier, you would have heard that so many plans we had for other ministries, we had to divert the funds.
Absolutely, to healthcare.
To healthcare. You say we should be investing more. We have 2 brand new ambulances, the first time in history that has ever happened. That 2 brand new ambulances are at the hospital for the first time in the history of this island. We went out and we bought ventilators.
PCR machine.
Ventilators, caller, so that people who even now can't breathe properly because of COVID, their lives can be saved using those ventilators. We have PCR machines that we have acquired through partnership with individuals to do the testing not only for COVID but for other diseases. And up to today we had a report, and we expect that PCR machine, well, we're already doing testing on the PCR machine. So the investment has come. We have spent, as of Christmas last year, just over $14 million on the new wing at the hospital. We're well within the budget. We continue to build out that piece of infrastructure, which is the largest and most significant investment in healthcare in the history of Nevis, being done by this government. And yes, there were some delays there occasioned by COVID. Let us be practical, because we had 2 years of lockdowns and curfews and whatnot, and we would have spoken about that as well. So that is ongoing. We have made healthcare some giant strides in relation to healthcare. Many people don't realize, Spencer, that as a response to COVID, we outfitted an entire building up at Prospect
I was
as an isolation site.
I was getting to that.
Thank God we haven't had to use it.
We don't have to use
and
it.
we pray we don't have to use it. But when people talk about resources, this is how we were seeking to position the island to respond to this pandemic.
Yes.
Now the caller mentioned dialysis, and I recognize dialysis has also become a football for those who are in opposition. And it is so regrettable that I saw a statement put out by one of the members of the opposition, I can't recall which one, but a statement was put out by one of them, that somebody had passed from renal failure. And it is almost as if they're trying to say that this government was responsible for the person's death.
Unfortunate.
And this is not the first time, Spencer, because there was an unfortunate death in the Beach Road area. And again, the NRP went on a rampage and even went public to say something was wrong with the water supply.
And
every attempt to take people's grief, people's sorrow, and to politicize it, and I keep asking why. These are times when we should be getting together with people, expressing our condolences to them, providing whatever support we can. But you're not interested in that. The interest is to seek to politicize, and to seek to politicize healthcare. Now tell me, other than Jesus Christ, the great healer, which mortal could guarantee that somebody afflicted with some disease is going to recover. And that is why I asked the caller about a doctor. I wasn't this caller, my friend. I'm not trying to disrespect in any way. But too many of us say, oh, Mary went to hospital with a little headache and Mary passed. You have no idea what was wrong with Mary.
Absolutely.
No idea. Mary might have had a headache and gone hospital. But by the time Mary reached hospital and the doctors take a look at Mary, it's some serious problems Mary have.
Too far gone to, yeah.
So that's why I asked if you're a doctor, how can you conclude that people go hospital with simple things and don't come back out? You know, recently I'm aware of some care that people have got at the Alexandra Hospital. I was told of somebody up there recently, and the medical professional told me that as far as they were concerned, the gentleman had died based on the what do you call it, the vitals.
Yes.
And they brought him back. They brought him back. I won't call any names.
Yes.
Using the machinery and the equipment, yes, caller, that we have invested in.
The doctors and the nurses.
The doctors and the nurses and their training. Nevis now has more doctors per capita than we have ever had at any point in the history of the island. So I keep asking, why is it we are seeking to use healthcare for politics? And anytime somebody passes or somebody has a difficulty, we take to the airwaves and we take to the any forum we can get, and we start to talk about healthcare. It's not being talked about with any empathy. It's not being talked about to say we need to help people. To the contrary, it's being used for politics. Now the question of dialysis, and I tell you all the time, Trinidad have an expression about mama guy. Nobody gonna mama guy me, you know. Nobody gonna mama guy me, because I keep saying that dialysis for the NRP was always a political gimmick. You wait, Spencer, until you leave in office to order 2 machines, which arrived on April 1st, All Fool's Day, with no plan. No plan. There wasn't even anybody who knew how to plug them in. Nothing in place. We have said very clearly that we are putting up a new structure, and a critical part of that new structure is a dialysis center.
It's a dialysis wing.
We have said so.
Yes.
And the structure is being built. In the interim, the question I think we should be asking here in Nevis, are Nevisians who require dialysis getting dialysis?
And are they being assisted?
And are they being assisted by this government? And the answer is yes. In fact, with our presence at the federal cabinet, the cost of dialysis and the cost of cancer care has just been reduced by 50%. Because, you know, it's an expensive process. Yes. It was $800 EC per treatment, and that has been reduced by 50%. To bring some further relief, just today in the cabinet, we approved some further assistance for someone suffering from renal failure.
Yes, we did.
So when we get the attacks that come that this government doesn't care and we're not taking care of people, or during the pandemic when our patients had to go to the dialysis center in St. Kitts, the government paid for the transportation.
We provided it.
We paid for the boat.
Yes.
We take care of our people, and it really bothers me that people out there are seeking to use people's illness for politics. I'm not going to get into all that I know, you know. But I'm aware, for example, that a family who recently lost a loved one was called, Spencer,
yes,
by a candidate and invited to go on radio to turn the death of that loved one into politics. The family refused. The family refused because the family said to them, we know the story of our loved one and how long they have suffered with this illness. Yeah. This had nothing to do with politics. We must stop it. Do we need more investment in healthcare? Yes, and we need more investment in schools, and we need more investment in security, and we need more investment in water, and we need more investment in sporting facilities, yes, and we need more investment in everything. Is healthcare critical? Absolutely. But the constant refrain and the constant efforts to politicize healthcare, I think it's unfortunate. And every time somebody tragically loses their life, before you all could say, my God, I'm so sorry to hear, you jump up. And it's politics again. Sometimes I wonder, somebody calls me, they're not calling me just tonight when they're checking the phone. A constituent of mine in Brantley said to me, "Oh, I understand you kill off so-and-so."
Wow.
I said, "I kill off?" "Yes. Me, the Premier of Nevis." And I asked the question of the person, was the individual who passed getting the care that they needed? Yes. So if they were getting the care that they needed, would it have made a difference if they got that care in Nevis, St. Kitts, Anguilla, or Timbuktu? It's as if some people feel that if we plug in a dialysis machine up Alexandra Hospital, that nobody again in the history of Nevis is going to die from renal failure. That is nonsensical. You know, Spencer, when I heard this raging debate, I pulled up the statistics in the United States, the greatest country and richest country in the world. And I went to Texas. And I saw that in 2021, 4,165 persons died in the state of Texas from renal failure.
How much?
4,165. I hope my memory is correct. So I then checked and said, how many dialysis centers they had in that area? 1,500. So I said, with 1,500 dialysis centers, you still had over 4,000 people dying? How is that possible? Because the logic that we're getting here in Nevis is that if you have a machine,
nobody would die.
Nobody would die.
And that's...
I mean, it is nonsensical.
Yeah.
And I'm just wishing that we would stop that if we want to talk about healthcare. How we can improve healthcare. How we can get universal health insurance, for example, so people are covered. How we can encourage our people to eat better, exercise,
take care of themselves,
drink less alcohol, so that we don't get to a point where we have the runaway NCDs like diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure, which are the precursors to some of these diseases that we're struggling with. Let us have a discussion about that. If the opposition wants to engage, let us have a discussion opposition about vaccination against COVID-19. Because for 2 years the country has suffered, and up to now
you have not
come out and encouraged one person to get the vaccine. So am I now to say that the people who have died in Nevis who are unvaccinated is your fault?
We would not say that.
We would not say that, because it would be stupid of us to say that.
Never say that. That's right.
But it would be foolish.
Yeah.
It would be foolish, and that is why I point out the folly of this approach of politicizing people's grief. It is wrong. It is un-Nevisian.
It's unfortunate.
And it really has to stop. And I want to know how many more times this old chestnut of dialysis is going to be trotted out. You know, I mentioned to somebody, I said, listen, we're 4 years into a term. We have an election that's due by March of next year here in Nevis. And it is a credit, Spencer Brand, to the government that I'm privileged to lead, that the attacks that the NRP is bringing, some of them are 15 years old.
15? I thought some of them was older than that.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it tells you that you have not found one thing within the last 4 years under my leadership that you can point to. So I see the other day they went back to some letter that they say I wrote when I was practicing as a lawyer.
You still remember how to practice law? You've been out.
I believe I still remember a few things. But they went back to some letter I wrote when Noah built the ark. And it's the same old things that they're seeking to bring. And I'm asking, well, if that is what you have to speak about, then clearly there is nothing on our record in government that you can point to that is an issue.
That's right.
Nothing. What are you saying about Spencer Brand and his performance that he has laid out here tonight? Some, not even all.
Some, because...
What are you going to say about that? In a campaign, what people want to hear, that Spencer used to bake bread when he was a boy? Talk about the man in office and what he has been able to accomplish or not. They can't do that. So healthcare now is a political football. And I am saying, and I am not even being modest about saying it, I want any person to point out to me any government that has invested as heavily in healthcare as this government, particularly during this COVID period. And I stood up there at that hospital and see two brand new ambulances. I applauded Hazel Brandy Williams. It never happened in the history of Nevis yet. Brand new. When I see them on the road now, I feel so good. And yet you hear the refrain that no investment is being made in healthcare. Go up there now, count the number of ventilators we have at the hospital and how many we had before. That is our reality. So caller, I hear your passion. Please do not say people go to the hospital with simple things and die, because you don't know. And you're in no position to say. That is all I was seeking to correct. Because unless you are their doctor, I don't see how you know what people have and why people die. Sometimes a man going, simply was down there healthy, playing a game. He get hit with the ball and a blood clot develops. You say you have a headache. By the time you reach hospital, it's a serious matter, leading to stroke and seizure and all kind of things. We can't say that because and that's why I say to people all the time, you go to the hospital, you visit a man, the next day you say, oh my goodness, I was just there with him yesterday. You don't know. And too many times we jump down the throats of our doctors and our health professionals and we try to criticize and we say all manner of things because, oh, she just had a headache. Or he say he had a hurt him. But we don't know.
That's right.
That is why I'm saying to us, let us give them some level of respect. Let us respect their professionalism because they are professionals, and let us support what they do. And this government that I lead will continue to invest in healthcare because we understand the importance of it, just as we understand the importance of other aspects to our development as well. And that commitment, caller, you can take to the bank. Spencer, we have about 4 minutes left. And sorry, this program was supposed to be about you, but I wanted to take a little time to talk about it because it really bothers me.
I think it's unfortunate that persons are using other persons when they are in the darkest and most
time for
painful
people.
time to politicize their and frankly, I want people to. Let's talk about the politics side of things, and we'll get into the wrangling and rambling of the politics. But let's not do that. I think that it basically try and add insult to injury. People in their most difficult period, and you try to politicize their situation. Let us try and stay away from that. Tim, we are basically down to the last minute. I want to thank you for the invitation, and I want to thank you for allowing me to give a brief synopsis of what I've been able to do as a member of this Nevis Island administration. It has not been easy. We have lost practically 2 years out of the 4 years, but I think despite that we were able to accomplish quite a lot, despite the difficulties that we face. I think that we work very well as a team in these extremely difficult times, and the team is a united team. The team is, in my mind, a team that can continue to help to transform the island of Nevis, and I am certain that after the next election we will continue that process to develop and to make sure that the people of Nevis can live in this island and fulfill the benefits of their homeland.
Mr. Brand, it has been my pleasure having you. I don't know why it took 15 years for you to come in on the mark, but you are here now, and that's what matters. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing on behalf of the people of St. Paul's. Thank you for the work that you've been doing on behalf of the people of Nevis. And you did say, give you 1 term and you will earn the rest. And I believe that you're well on the way. I agree with you. I think that when an election comes, whenever it will come, the people will look at our performance.
Yes.
And that is why I keep saying that I have no concern, because people will have an opportunity to look at the record and to judge accordingly. And our people, I know, are sensible people. So this constant effort to play on people's emotions, to use their pain for political gain, I think it is regrettable.
It's unfortunate.
And it is the lowest form of politics that one can find. When people are down, Spencer, they need us to wrap our arms around them and to come together. Because we do not know for whom the bell tolls tomorrow. It could be for you, it could be for me.
Absolutely.
So let us be kind to people and let us stop politicizing people's misery and people's pain because there's no value in it. The band has struck up, it means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great show. I really enjoyed my interaction with the Honorable Spencer Brand, who did promise that he would bring a brand new form of representation to the people of St. Paul's. And he has done so. You know what I like about you most? Not a soul could say he put his hand and take up anything he didn't put down. That's our show. Thank you. Good night and God bless you. And this show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on VON Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks much and good night.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.